Hi guys, yet another review. I'm on a roll here. Anyway, 7 hertz Elua Ultra. This is the updated version of the Elua, not an HBB collaboration. I don't want to be mean or disrespectful or anything of the sort. I can understand why brands do collaborations with certain influencers, certain reviewers. I can understand all of that. I wouldn't mind doing one myself, to be honest. But and even though HBB has done some IEMs which have been really interesting, I'm not going to deny it. He has done some tunings or some collaborations where his input has been very positive. He has also done others where that input has not been very good. The QKZ, the Hades is one such example, an absolutely appalling example of I don't know what that IM was supposed to be or intended to be. On the other hand, the Arcadia was a really nice IM, a very nice IM. I mean that's the truth. So, there's, I believe, when you reach that level of being known and so on and so forth, you cannot afford to have IMs which are not a successful and truthful representation of what you're capable of doing. And when an IM, is not that, then don't launch it. Period. And with all due respect to 7 Hertz, which I really enjoy their products. I've liked all of their products. I really don't have anything, that I can say that is negative. Maybe one or two could have been slightly more polished up, but that's neither here or there. We can't always satisfy. The reality is, I like 7 Hertz. They have got an interesting manner or an interesting way of doing things. I mean, we have to give them the credit for the timeless. Our market in terms of planers would definitely not be what it is if it hadn't been for 7 Hertz. They revolutionized the IM market when it comes to planars. So we should, we have to praise them. That's the reality. The work they did with the timeless 2, and the latest version as well. I mean, it's phenomenal. There's nothing there. The Elua, now cutting a long story short, the Elua, the HB collaboration was not a successful one. No, the way that this IM was tuned, okay, it's listenable, but there were other options out there which just walked all over it. And one example was the original caster. I'm not even going to go for the caster pro. The original caster walked all over it completely, just trampled it in every single way possible. So I'm not going to delve too much into it. I'm just going to say that, yes, okay, fine, this is what was decided, but the Ela Ultra is what I think the Elua should have always been. That's the reality. It's to cut a long story very short. That's exactly it. It offers the same shell basically. I believe the drivers have been slightly updated, but I think the biggest difference is obviously in the way that they've tuned those two drivers. If memory doesn't cheat me, Elua Ultra, I believe it's a 10 and a 6 millimeter. Let me just confirm here for you guys so that I don't make any mistakes. I really don't. Yes, a 10 and an 8 millimeter. A 10 and an 8 millimeter driver. In a nice quality resin shell. It's priced at roughly $30. And the way that they've done the tuning is they've got that tuck style of bass, which is, in my opinion, been very, very well done. Which, mind you, already existed in the HBB version. But the problem was the way that then the pin again was done. It just you felt there was two different things there. Okay, two different drivers. There was no cohesion, no coherence, no matching, no single point source sound. And with the Ultra, they've corrected that. That point that I usually like, taking as a comparison to where it corresponds and so on and so forth, that 100 hertz point corresponds to 2 kilohertz. The amount of energy below 100 hertz and the amount of energy above 2 kilohertz are perfectly matched, and the sound is just phenomenal. I mean, honestly, if I have to be very frank and very honest and sincere, in the under $30 price point of dual DDs, and I really am a fan of the Caster Pro, but the Caster Pro has its advantages and it also has its negatives. Okay, but under $30, this is probably the better one. The best dual DD. If I then jump up the bracket a little bit more to $40 to $50, I start getting other things which are very good as well, but still the Ultra maintains a very solid positioning. And only when we start entering the realm of maybe the Aoshida R20, the E20, the Saratoon, and some models from Ear Acoustic, do we start getting things which are as capable and surpass the Ultra's abilities. That's the reality. Cutting a long story short. But anyway, delving here into the Ultra with a little bit more detail. 10 and an 8, like I said. Bass done in a tactile manner. It's flat by 200. The pinna gain is nice and relaxed. Peaks at 3, continues and plateaus across 8K peak, which is very unnoticeable. Dips, and then you have extension past 10K. So it does everything perfectly. The first time I listened to it, I was reminded of the Elua, of the Aoshida, the E20, because the Aoshida E20 has basically got the same sort of tuning. The only difference is, while the Aoshida tucks in at around 150 hertz, the Ultra tucks in at 200, and so because of that difference point of tucking in, there is a bass difference in terms of bass quantity of, if I take 50 hertz point here, let's say, yeah, 50 hertz, we're talking about 3 dB band of less energy in the E20 over the Ultra. But if you guys, what I'm trying to say is, if you guys enjoyed the E20 and you found that the E20 was maybe just lacking a little bit in that mid-bass section there, so that point there between, let's say, 50 and 200 hertz was needing or requiring a little bit more energy, then the Ultra has done it a perfect job. Kind of, if you guys remember when the Moondrop, oh my God, another blank. Seriously, I need to go and get my vitamins in, so I don't have so much blank spots. The variations, as you guys will recall, is one of the very first IEMs that used this similar approach of tuning the bass, tucked in, so on and so forth. And it's interesting because you look at the variations, or you take the graph of the variations, which I'll show to you in a second, and you compare it to the Ultra's graph, and to the Aoshidas as also, and the similarity is unbelievable. And the variations was criticized for being a little bit lacking in the mid-bass department, and in honesty, I really don't think it was. I think it was just the fact that it was a tribrid, had BAs, had ESTs, and that whole coming together of those different driver types. It could maybe give the perception sometimes that it was a little bit mid-bass lacking, but no, it wasn't. It had clean, solid bass, really phenomenal sub-bass focus, and it was it is a really good IM. And the Ultra, I'm not saying that they went and fetched inspiration, maybe they did, I don't know, but the Ultra reminds me a lot of a variations. It reminds me of a very cheap variations, let's put it that way. That's how good I actually think the Elua Ultra is. It is really, really that competent. Another IEM that also kind of had this sort of approach was the Truth Hears Blue, the version or the model that Clinical participated also had the same sort of kind of tuning, tucked style. It probably was the very first lower priced IM that had that sort of approach, so very similar again to the variation, so on and so forth. But somehow, and that's the interesting thing here, you take the Truth Hears Blue, and although excellent, mind you, excellent, nothing that I can again fault at it. The fact that, well, first of all, we have to give it merit for the fact that it came out 2-3 years ago. Okay, so fine, but maybe they could have been a little bit more careful, especially in the choice of the second driver, so as to achieve a better coherence between the two drivers. Because what was very much noticeable on the Blue, and it wasn't hard for you to pick up on that actually, was that there was a very noticeable separation between sub bass and then the rest of the musical spectrum. And that's something again that I think, yeah, in the Ultra 7 Hz has paid attention to that detail, and so it all comes across as one single driver. You know, that's I mean, I think that's the magic here, is they've been careful in making sure that they didn't repeat mistakes that others did. They've chosen the drivers carefully. They've matched the drivers carefully. I'm sure they're using some sort of of passive crossover inside. They've made sure that that passive crossover is being matched correctly with the drivers and impedances and all of that. And the result is a result in terms of sound that just works. It's better than the Truth Is Blue. I'm going to actually try and get the Blue 2 and make then a comparison. It's got that vibe, that energy that you got from the Variations, obviously if you're a fan of the Variations or not, and it's got that same vibe and energy that you get in the Aoshi, the E20, although the Aoshi E20 is a little bit thinner in the mid bass department. Okay, and then compared to the KZ, the Caster Pro, you know, again, I have to give it, I have to give them both excellent merit, because although looking at just the graph, there is a significant difference between the two of them. Both of them are using, you know, well selected drivers. The KZ is using the linear, super linear driver, implemented it in a very smart manner. They've given it one of the 10mm drivers, they've given it a hell of a lot of bass, but they've tucked it in and they've actually gone down below, dipped it between 200 and 400 Hz. They've even dipped it, but you know what, it works really well. And the Caster Pro, I think, only loses, to be truthful, the Caster Pro only loses to the Elua by not feeling as natural. I can't precisely put the name or explain it. I'm trying, and I've been trying to find ways, but you listen to the Ultra and it sounds natural. It sounds that there's no processing, if that makes any sense. While when you listen to the Caster Pro, and again, let me repeat, I think the Caster Pro is really good, really good. The fact that they are relying a lot upon the passive crossover network internally to do all of those adjustments to the sound, it just sounds less natural. It sounds natural on its own, it sounds phenomenal on its own, but less natural than the Elua, the Ultra. Also, it has to do with the way the switches are set. I have it in 1100, which is the one that I think still is the best combination, because when you start messing around with the switches, which basically all they do is reduce the bass, that unnaturalness starts becoming more evident, and a certain amount of unbalance between the frequencies. So you start having that separation of frequencies, which is what we are trying to avoid ultimately. So I think that's the main thing here between the Caster Pro, the bass edition, mind you, I'm talking about the bass edition, and the Ultra. Other than that, I mean, guys, I'm not going to drag on here forever. What I can say, I've basically said. Good coherence between the drivers. They've selected them properly. Bass sounds really good. It's got, like I said, that kind of tuck style. It's not as much of a tuck style as the Variation, but it's kind of like got that kind of tuck style bass. It's got really well done mids, upper mids. Treble is detailed, non-offensive, non-aggressive. It's not harsh. And at the end of the day, what I can just say is congratulations. I mean, 7Hz, you know, you've shown that you don't have to go and spend tremendous amounts of money to come up with an IM that works. Just works. And I wish the Elua, the original one, had been this, because if it had been this, I am positive that more people would have praised it. I am positive that it would have been way more successful. You know, but hey, look, it is what it is. Anyway, let me just quickly show you the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay, I'm going to start out here with the graph for the HBB Elua. And you can see what I was basically saying. It's got kind of a gliding, tucked-in style of bass, but then the way that this was done here, no, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, but no, this was just not done in the most ideal of manners. I'm sure that there will people that will appreciate it. That's always the case, but this is not showing the true potential of what the Elua is. Okay, Ultra, correct it. Okay, and basically the bass is the same. I've normalized it at 500, but if I actually normalize with the bass the same, it's the bass hasn't been changed anything. They've just given 7/8 has given the right amount of energy and let the 8mm driver do what it's supposed to do, which is work and not be subdued in such a dramatic manner. Okay, it works and it sounds absolutely phenomenal. Period. End of story. Okay, the IMs that I brought out, as I mentioned. And just quick reference here before I continue. 100 hertz, 2 kilohertz, energy there, perfect. Energy here, more than perfect. Doesn't overpower. It just sounds good. It just sounds really, really good. Aoshida E20, one of the most underrated IEMs as well that I've heard for a long, long time. I've always enjoyed it from day one. I think it sounds great. It's okay, mid-bass could be a little bit more, but it just works. It sounds really, really, really nice. At times, yes, you do get a little bit of that separation or that differentiation between the sub-bass and the rest, but it works and it's a good driver. And you know, when you take the Aoshida and you compare it to the Elua, ultimately, yes, it's got a better build quality, that's undeniable, but you know, there's not much into it. The Elua does edge it out because of having a little bit more mid-bass, but in the rest of the performance, equal, very equal, because when I again take that 100 hertz point, if you look carefully, 100 hertz point, fine. It has a less than ideal corresponding point there, which is about 1.8 something, okay? But then the amount of energy that you have there has been properly kept up with the amount of energy that you have there. So the balance that is struck is again a very pleasant balance. Bright, it's a little bit more live sounding than the Elua. Yes, it is. I'm not going to deny. There's a little bit more extra energy there in the Aoshida, but it ultimately still works. It's just the mid-bass slam that is missing here slightly, okay? And then oh yes, I was mentioning the variations and the Truth Hears Blue. Let me just quickly show you. This is the Truth Hears Blue. Very similar graph, but the reality is that the Elua, the Ultra, just does it better. That's it. The Moondrop variations. Okay, you can see again, very, very similar. Very, very, very similar. Honestly, it's uncanny, the similarity and sound and everything. That's it. And then finally the KZ Caster Pro, the base edition, in the 1100 setting, where they've given it a little extra amount of energy there, yes, and you notice it's got a little bit more mid-bass, but then they've dipped it, but then that dip, coupled with the fact that you have this energy here, and how it's matched then with the energy in the mids and upper mids, it just works, and you really don't really notice that dip there. You don't feel that, okay, there's something sucked out. Works really well. The Caster Pro, perhaps a little bit more mid-bass slam than the Ultra, but where I think that the big difference between the two lies is the Ultra sounds more natural, sounds more realistic, doesn't sound as processed. Okay, and that's it, guys. I hope I was able to shed some light here on the Ultra. Really nice IM. You want something which is budget orientated, 2 DDs, go for it. As always, like and subscribe. Take care.